Hi, Crampers. This is just a little quick and dirty episode, untouched by our editor and mixer, to give you an update and tell you a story about how vindictive and spiteful my period pain really is. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, July 3rd, I am probably in surgery right now. I'm getting an endometriosis excision surgery with an endo specialist, Dr. Elkata, here in LA. I had been on the fence about getting surgery ever since my diagnosis about a year ago, especially considering I had figured out so many ways to mitigate my pain. I felt like I was handling things pretty well. The tipping point came when I had an imaging test done called an HSG, or a hysterosalpingogram. No idea how to say that. It's a test that shows whether your fallopian tubes are blocked or clear. And it turns out I have one very blocked fallopian tube that is so full of fluid, it looks like a water balloon. My doctor explained that this can happen if you have an untreated STI, a prior abdominal surgery, or, you guessed it, endometriosis. That blocked and filled up fallopian tube is called a hydrosalpinx, and there's no way to know how long it's been that way. It's possible that hydrosalpinx is causing a lot of my period pain because the fluid inside it has all of these inflammatory molecules, and just the fact that there's basically a heavy water balloon on a string attached to my uterus might be causing pulling and tugging when there's cramping. This HSG imaging test was the first time that I have had an imaging test done that shows definitive damage from endometriosis. Instead of there's something weird going on here. It could be endo, but it could be something else. It also is the only imaging test I've ever had done that shows a specific thing going wrong that might be causing my pain. The only way to fix this hydrosalpinx is to do a laparoscopic surgery to have it drained and removed. And if we're going to be in there anyway, may as well do a whole endometriosis excision. That made my mind up to get the surgery. And preparing for this has been a whirlwind. The paperwork, the prepayments to the 4 different parties who need to be contracted separately for this surgery, some of whom are in network for my insurance, some of whom are out of network. My partner and I changed our health insurance last minute in order to have a better chance at getting more coverage. There have been pre-op clearance appointments with blood work and EKGs. There's been appointments with the endo surgeon where I have had to sign off on the risk of every single thing that might possibly go wrong, one by one. Not to mention trying to figure out what the recovery might look like because it's different for everyone. Endo surgery seems uniquely weird to prepare for. Because it's so hard to get good imaging of endo, they really don't know how much they're going to need to take out until they get in there. Which means the surgery could be anywhere from 3 hours to 7 or 8 hours. Recovery will also depend on how much they need to cut out of me. So you have to just get comfortable with the unknown. And you know what? I was getting there. I had all the stuff gathered for recovery. The wedge pillow set, the loose PJs, the heating pads, the TENS machine, the Gas X and the Ginger Gravol anti-nausea pills. My partner and I were all set to have one last normal, fun day before surgery. And that is when my endo made its last stand. First, I got my period in the morning. It was a couple days early, and I had really hoped that the surgery would be timed so that I wouldn't even get a period this month. But no big deal, it doesn't affect their ability to do the surgery. What did worry me was that I wasn't allowed to take ibuprofen because it's an anticoagulant and could lead to excessive bleeding during the surgery. As you know, the cornerstone of my defense against death cramps is taking ibuprofen for the 2 days leading up to my period, getting ahead of those prostaglandins. I hadn't been able to do that, and I could feel the cramps starting. No big deal, I had my TENS machine and my heating pad, and I had my Valium that the surgeon had cleared me to take if I needed it. I wasn't too worried because it had been a long time since I had had real death cramps. I figured without ibuprofen, I'd just be in for some extra gnarly cramping and back pain. But things escalated quickly. Within just 90 minutes of cramps starting, I was getting nauseous. I ran to the bathroom to throw up. My pill window had already passed and I hadn't taken a Valium yet. I had my partner crush up a Valium and put it in water to hopefully get it into my system before I threw up again. But 20 minutes later, more vomiting. My surgeon okayed a one-time dose of 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, but I threw that right up. Then he prescribed me a stronger painkiller that my partner ran out to pick up, but I threw that up too. It was 8 straight hours of throwing up every 20 minutes like clockwork, no matter what we tried. I was in so much pain, exhausted, dehydrated, and I couldn't think of a single other thing to try. At that point, we made the call to go to the ER. And look, as ER experiences go, this was pretty smooth. I was actively throwing up into those little blue plastic baggies on plastic rings through the whole intake process, while I was getting my blood drawn, while I was giving a urine sample. I eventually got into a bed and they gave me an IV with morphine and an anti-nausea medication. At that point, I had been throwing up and in severe pain for over 10 hours. Within 10 minutes on the IV, the pain was gone and the nausea stopped. I had that euphoria that you get when you've been in pain for so long and suddenly it's gone. And I'm sure the morphine didn't hurt. The only really stupid part of this whole ER experience was that as we were being discharged, the nurse in charge told me that they were pretty sure that I was experiencing something called cyclic vomiting syndrome, which, yeah, sounds right. And since my urine had tested positive for marijuana, they were sure that my vomiting was due to my marijuana use. Despite my many attempts to inform them that I have endometriosis, that I just got my period, this exact same thing has happened many times before. They gave me a printout about cyclic vomiting syndrome, and under possible causes, right under marijuana use, it says menstruation. So, okay, whatever. They gave me the drugs without a fight, so it still gets filed under positive ER experiences. I really can't believe the timing of all this. After years of no death cramps, finally having a surgery that has the potential to take death cramps off the table for good, which, I know it's no guarantee, but it's more of a reason to hope than I've ever had before. 2 days before this surgery, my endo gets one last gut punch in. It gets to ruin one last nice day. Never underestimate the spiteful vindictiveness of endometriosis. I will have a full episode for you later this summer about the surgery in a lot more detail. I want to be able to tell you the whole story with results and recovery and everything all in one. In the meantime, I have a few episodes lined up for you while I'm recovering, which I think you'll love. Plus, a Patreon-only bonus episode next week all about cycle tracking. So join the Patreon now to get that in your feed. And I will see you on the other side.